not the standard for this.
Give me 1 sec.
I guess right next to Jim. You're running. We got more in us?
Just people coming in from here, they don't worry. He wasn't done.
Yeah, just close to Jake as possible. Yeah, Irene, you gotta get in. I don't want to smother him.
Don't worry, go ahead.
I don't want to be in this bubble, you know? Irene in.
This side?
You guys go this way.
I didn't want to block the screen for you. I know we got special effects.
Perfect. You're good.
Good. It's good.
Could be. A lot of times it's in the back.
All right. Good afternoon. We ready? Y'all ready? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out today to discuss a extremely sad and serious issue that we're dealing with here in Rensselaer County and Troy and the state of New York and the United States of America. We're here to address some serious concerns and kind of tell you what we know at this point and what we are requesting, what we think should happen. So as you all know, there was a murder in Troy on Saturday. The information we had is that it was a man from Honduras. At that point, we were told he was here illegally. That was a tweet by the U.S. Border Patrol back in March. That was rapidly tracked down. I think, though, at the end of the day, as I've been on the phone today with the Director of Border Patrol for the Northern District, with two people from ICE, one from Buffalo, the Director, and the Assistant Director up in Malta. I just spoke to the Prince George's County District Attorney's Office in Maryland, spoke to her deputy, requested a phone call back. And at the end of the day, what happened here is a man was murdered because of a communication breakdown among agencies, because of open borders in this country, which is reprehensible, and because of bail reform, which continues to plague our towns, cities, streets, and families. This man was murdered because of the alleged murderer from Honduras was arrested, or stabbed somebody in Laurel, Maryland, fled, and there was an active warrant for his arrest. He was apprehended at our northern border by the New York State Police and Border Patrol. He was then held for 90 days in the Clinton County Jail. And that's not 90 straight days, as I'm sure our district attorney will talk about, but it's 30 days, and then 30 days, and then 30 days, right in a row. But at the end of each of those 30-day periods, there's a hearing. At no time, apparently, did Prince George's County, Maryland, extradite this person. Had he been extradited and found guilty of the stabbing in Maryland, which put somebody in critical condition, he would have been deported, and I will tell you that our citizen would be alive today. And you are going to see this play out across the United States of America over and over and over again. And the runaround and the spin that we got today, as both Border Patrol and ICE tried to clarify, and let me be clear, we're big fans of both of those agencies. But right now we have a lot of finger pointing back and forth at everybody, and nobody is admitting what went on here. The ball was dropped, communication was lacking, there was no extradition. And the hands of the Border Patrol and the New York State Police and ICE are tied until that extradition goes through the courts. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but our district attorney will detail that. At the end of the day, We should not have lost this person in Troy, New York. It's a hard-working man, trying to feed his family, working at McDonald's, not doing anything wrong. And he's dead because of a breakdown in communication. And have we learned nothing from 9/11? Nothing. We're a week away from the anniversary of 9/11. And here we are in 2023, suffering the same lack of communication. And that's what I got today when I spoke to some federal agencies. We were communicating them. They weren't communicating with us. Oh, yes, we were. No, we weren't. Back and forth. This is reprehensible what went on here. You might tell I'm a little infuriated by it. We have a dead citizen of the United States, a dead resident of Troy and Rensselaer County that we should not have lost and would not have lost if people had done their jobs and extradited this person and gotten him out of this country. And I'm sick and tired of American citizens being put in harm's way by open border policies, a weak president, and a governor that supports bail reform, which turns our criminals loose on the streets. With all that being said, I want to turn it over to our district attorney, Mary Pat Donnelly.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here today is your district attorney, and I'm charged with securing justice for the victim in this case. The victim's name is Jairo Jesus Hernandez Sanchez. My office is working with the Troy Police Department as we speak. This is an ongoing investigation. So at this point, I have limited information to share, but I think it's really important that I'm here today to share that information as we move forward and try to figure out what really happened here. I can tell you that on Saturday, September 2nd at approximately 1 p.m. in the vicinity of River and Dow Street in the city of Troy, 28-year-old Jairo Jesus Hernandez Sanchez was stabbed multiple times, resulting in his death. The following day, an eyewitness led Troy police to the arrest of a 20-year-old named Carlos Enrique Corrales Ramirez. Corrales Ramirez was arraigned in Troy City Court late Sunday, early Monday, remanded to the custody of the Rensselaer County Sheriff. We do have a preliminary hearing scheduled for Friday, which will determine his release status thereafter. In the course of this investigation, it has come to light the defendant in the case is a native of Honduras, as Steve accounted for, and he's wanted in connection with a stabbing incident which occurred in Laurel, Maryland. He was detained at the Canadian border in March of this year and thereafter spent 90 days in the Clinton County Correctional Facility awaiting extradition. That extradition never happened. Maryland authorities never showed up to pick him up, and he was released as required pursuant to the laws of extradition. So at this point, that's all I can really say as it speaks to details of the case. It is a continuing investigation, and as soon as we move forward to the next stage, I will absolutely be providing an update. Thank you.
Frank?
I mentioned to Steve the other day that in our office, our DMV offices, we've seen a real uptick in fraudulent documents. As a matter of fact, we had OFI in the other day. We had a fraudulent passport, social security card. Just yesterday, we had a fraudulent title. We're seeing the real uptick. We can see customers at the window continuous now that are in this area trying to either get a non-driver ID, a driver's license, and they're using our office to do that. We're trying to be real vigilant, but when you're looking at foreign documents when you've never been really taught what to really look for, it's kind of tough on the clerks to really catch those things. But the clerks down there are really, they're doing a great job. We caught quite a few of them, and we got OFI coming in, and it seems like on a regular occasion. But on a personal note, I'd like to say one thing. I'm a father of a police officer. I just hope that we can do something, elected officials, to really change this. The people that put a badge on in that uniform every day need our help, and this is a great way to do it.
Thank you, Frank. Senator Jake Ashby.
Thanks, Steve. You know, after years of failed policy that has circumvented the law, we need real reform. You know, whether it's taking away judicial discretion, whether it's sanctuary cities, we are now seeing the cumulative result in that with acute issues like this. And this is a lack of leadership. This is a lack of leadership at the federal level, a lack of leadership at the state level, and now we're putting law enforcement and local officials in an impossible situation. This is why my colleagues and I have called for the governor and for state leaders to return a session and to address this issue with legislation that works this issue out. This is not an impossibility. We've passed real immigration reform, pathways to citizenship for people, this year in the state legislature. Is an issue like this going to prevent us from doing that? We need leaders that are going to step up.
Thank you. I'm Assemblyman Scott Bendet, and I want to echo what Jake Ashby just said. My colleagues in the Assembly minority have also sent a letter out to Governor Hochul requesting that we have a special session, because really it's just very tired of this issue being done in the back room behind the backs of upstate residents. So let's all, like I said, like Jake just said, let's get some leadership and come up with some real tangible solutions to handle this, because public safety is a major issue. Thank you.
And Troy City Council President Carmela Mantello.
Thank you, Steve. A Troy resident is dead because of the incompetence of federal and state authorities and the pro-criminal policies that put the rights of criminals ahead of law-abiding citizens. There are those who want to bring those policies to Troy. We can't allow that. I've always stood with our law enforcement and will fight any effort to make Troy a sanctuary city. Why was Carlos Corrales Ramirez released? Who released him? The people of Troy deserve answers. Thank you.
I'm sure you probably have some questions. Let me finish up with this. Remember just a few years ago, Andrew Cuomo, when he's governor, directed the New York State Police to not communicate or work with ICE. Think about how ridiculously awful and dangerous that policy was. And he repeated it over and over and over. So was there a breakdown in communication because our state police, and I don't want to accuse the governor of this, but I haven't heard her reverse that directive either. So are our state police working with ICE or are they not? In this county, we are the only county in the state of New York that participates in the 287G program, which is a federal program that says when somebody is already in our jail, we will run them through the federal database to see if they are wanted by ICE or by Border Patrol. That's a common sense. All you ever hear a lot is, let's do common sense, common sense. What's more common sense than running somebody that's in your jail already through a database to see if they are wanted by federal authorities so that they don't endanger the lives of New York citizens and American citizens? But we're the only county in the state that has the backbone, the guts, and the courage to do it. And it's a credit to our DA and to our sheriff and our law enforcement that we stand up and do the right thing. And I would call on every county in the state of New York to join us, join that 287G program, and at the very least run them through. And let's see if they're wanted so that we can extradite as necessary. And then the question remains, why was this criminal not extradited out of the state of New York back to Maryland? Because if he had done so, our person would be alive today, and we wouldn't be standing here mourning him and having this press conference. This madness needs to stop. Americans are in danger. New Yorkers are in danger. We're going to do everything we can here in Rensselaer County to protect them, but I need the federal authorities and the state authorities to step up and do their job and protect this border and protect our people. With that, we'll take any questions.
Steve, it isn't clear to me if Clinton County officials contacted Maryland or they just ignored it and didn't show up. What happened?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dan, and trust me, as I said to Border Patrol, to ICE, and to the Prince George's County Attorney, trust me, you're getting FOIL requests and letters from my office, so keep it all. You better have every documentation. What I was told from Border Patrol, because if you look, I tweeted out what was said by the chief of that sector back in March, was that this person was here illegally. I tweeted that. I just retweeted what he posted, which is right there. 17 seconds later, the phone rang and he wanted to talk to me to clarify a bunch of things. Well, he assured me that they had been in communication with Prince George's County attorneys. So at some point during the 90 days, it came to an end, and obviously the magistrate released him after 90 days. Well, at some point, there's an email trail that says either we're not coming to get him, which is in itself unbelievable, or they stop communication, which is unbelievable. It cannot be otherwise. Because if they were in fact communicating, and I gotta assume that if we had an active warrant out of Maryland and we were not just sitting on it, our state police do a good job, Border Patrol, ICE, they're all doing a good job. I highly doubt that there was no communication with the state of Maryland and their attorney down there in Prince George's County. So at some point, and I want to see what it was, and I think everybody in this room and everyone in this state deserves an answer. What was the communication trail? What happened? Why was the breakdown? And I find it unbelievable that the federal government can fly plane loads of illegals into our airports all night long, sneaking in the middle of the night. But somehow they can't figure out how to get a van from the northern border of New York down to Maryland. And now someone's dead because of that.
Question for the district attorney. Would you want to see Ramirez extradited to Maryland, or would you want to try him here in Rensselaer County?
Oh, absolutely not. We want to try him here in Rensselaer County.
Question for the district attorney. This, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the second time we've had an illegal immigrant killed here in Rensselaer County. The other incident, again, in the city of Troy. Is this a common theme going to continue, or what are we?
There was an incident prior to my tenure. We did actually try that case in 2019, and it involved undocumented citizens on both sides, not only the defendant but the victim as well.
Steve, the Clinton County DA said that the reasoning was released, one, because of Maryland not showing up, not providing the paperwork, but also that immigration lifted their retainer on him.
Yeah.
Did you get an answer from them at all about that?
I read that. Probably read it in your article, actually. I did not get an answer on that. I did get an answer as to why there was a detainer to begin with. It's because Border Patrol suspected that he was illegal and he was causing a disturbance pretty close to the border, and apparently, obviously, had fled Maryland. By the way, he was arrested with not a shred of identification or paperwork on him. Not a shred. We still don't have that. Keep in mind, we have a governor and others that continue to preach how all of these folks are vetted and background checked. This person's roaming around with no ID whatsoever. So I don't know why they lifted the retainer. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, because I've been telling you, I've been getting a lot of various conflicting things. And it could have been that at the end of the 90 days, and the district attorney would know better than me, but I think at the end of the 90 days, you're kind of at the end of the road legally on what you can do. So at that point, they may have had no choice but to release it. So I don't know that you can go much beyond 90 days, but I don't know that for sure.
Also, in talking with Prince George's this morning after contacting them yesterday,
Yeah.
they told us they were taking a quick look. They thought all of their records closed.
I mean, I think it. Yeah, I didn't get much out of them today. I finally got through to the deputy district attorney. I think I spelled Rensselaer 17 times for them, and made it known that I wanted some answers from them, and that we were going to be foiling everything. Taking a quick look, they had 90 days and apparently didn't look at all. So that, to me, you talk about incompetence. I don't know why they did it. Was it political? They didn't want to touch it? I don't know. I don't have the answers yet, but we're not going to stop until we do get those answers. And the people of this county and this state and this country deserve some answers. And at what point have Americans had enough of this, where we're getting killed in our own streets? At what point does America say enough?
Steve, what brought your attention?
Give me 1 second.
Steve, what brought your attention to this case in particular? You know, luckily Rensselaer County doesn't have that many homicides a year.
Yeah.
And as Mary Pat pointed out, to the one that goes back to 2016, I believe.
Yeah.
Started in Albany County and ended here out in Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
What brought your attention to this one?
Every one of them brings my attention. The sexual assault and the rape in Buffalo. Again, after we were assured that these people are checked and vetted. You tell me how you're checked and vetted and you let a rapist and an assaulter into your country. So that caught my attention. We had a rape of a child in July. That caught my attention. Every one of them catches my attention and bothers me. And for those that say, well, you know, there's plenty of rapes, plenty of murders from Americans too. Yeah, they're here, and that bothers us too. But this is self-inflicted. This is people breaking into our country in many cases and causing these problems. Yes?
And then along those same lines, there's a homicide back in July. A 16-year-old was charged there.
Yeah.
You know, why did
Did that not get as much attention as you're giving this?
Listen, if you follow my Twitter, I give plenty of attention to many, many things. So I don't think anybody can accuse me of not paying attention to what's going on. You know, the fact is, this is a tragedy that none of them should occur, of course, okay? But to say that we're not paying attention is just not true.
To hold a whole press conference like this, though, is it because the asylum seekers are here? Like, can you explain that a little bit more?
There's not much to explain, okay? First of all, if you're overrunning our country, and first of all, let's stop with the nonsense that they're asylum seekers, okay? That's a blanket statement put out by the Democrat Party, which is fundamentally false. It's a lie. 90%, make sure you're writing this down, get your quotes straight, 90% do not qualify for asylum. That's right off the jump, 90%. So if you got 6 million, there's 5.4 million that automatically don't qualify. So I don't want to hear that they're asylum seekers. That's nonsense, number one. Second of all, of the 10% that are even able to apply for asylum, roughly 20 to 30% will get it. Do you know how many got asylum in the United States? Not New York, the United States last year. Any idea? Because I do. 36,000. 36,000. You had 6 million come across the border in the past 2 years. So stop with the nonsense of asylum seekers. It's a blanket statement put out there by the Democrat Party to make everybody shut up and say, oh, they're just asylum seekers. And by the way, they're vetted. They're vetted. Don't forget that. But yet we have rapes, murders, sexual assaults going on. Ridiculous.
On that 287G, now that Morales Ramirez is down at the jail, I'm assuming that's the Sheriff's Department run them through and notified the...
Of course.
And as Pat said, what answers they've gotten or any response?
Run them through 287G?
I mean, check them for that to notify.
They certainly are in communication, yes. I don't want to speak for Pat, but certainly they're in communication. And I have no doubt that at this point Maryland would say, oh, we'll take them back. Yeah, they're not getting them back now.
I just want to make it clear and just make you aware in case you weren't. So he was here illegally, asylum seekers here legally, so big difference there.
Yeah, big difference.
Also, Rotterdam PD is noting that they're getting less calls to respond to those hotels where the asylum seekers are. I think Peter Crum even let me know in the Wolf Road Sure State, they were getting 500 calls a month.
It's awful.
Prior to them showing up.
It's
now
awful.
It's a different story.
Yeah, it's a totally different story. I wonder if it has anything to do with the undocumented, uncertified, unlicensed security guards that the thugs that are employed by DocGo are doing. I wonder if that has anything to do with the squashing of the crimes that are happening. Anything else?
I got the same thing in Albany, where they have the most, and say their calls are down, and actually the chief came out today and he's concerned that people might prey on these individuals. Do you think this kind of rhetoric could cause an impact like that?
What rhetoric? What rhetoric? There's a man dead. There's rapes in Buffalo. There's rapes.
They're different. He's here illegally. Those folks are here legally. That's the difference.
Listen, just because, again, let me explain this. Just because you want to throw the blanket, oh, they're all asylum seekers, it's nonsense. Just because the Democrat Party has morphed this into suddenly everybody's an asylum seeker, it's nonsense. And by the way, I don't care. An American citizen is dead. People are getting raped and assaulted. They are not background checked. They are not vetted. Why don't you focus on that for a change? Focus on the lies of the governor and the Biden administration. They're not vetted. They're not checked. They're roaming free in this country.
President Mantel, I have a question for you. So, with the residents of the city of Troy here, it's the second incident here, what's the city council's plan here going forward to bring forward the safety for these residents here? As residents are screaming that the violent spikes are happening, they don't know what's going on in their neighborhoods, everything like this, and we're seeing violence in the city of Troy more than anything. In the county, we're not seeing a lot out in the county. We're seeing a lot in the city of Troy. What's the plans for the city council to move forward here?
Well, you know, Jeff, as you know, we're a city council. I mean, so we can only do so much. Youth programs, obviously, have been lacking over the years. The city council, we've appropriated tons of money for youth programs to get our kids off the streets, to keep them active. The city council also, we heard 4 years ago, no, to sanctuary city. We are not going to be a sanctuary city. The city council under my leadership, I don't support it. I'll continue not supporting it. But more importantly, to get back to what Steve said, I think we need to take a step back. The federal and state policies that are dominoing into our streets, everybody wants to put them aside, and everybody wants to say, oh, it's not those policies. It's not. We're seeing it day in and day out. I meet with the parents, Aishan Davis to, MJ Rivera, who drive-by shootings, dead, paralyzed. That's unacceptable. And the policies from the federal and state government, whether anyone wants to believe it, are dominoing onto our streets. We're doing everything humanly possible as the city council. But we're a city council, and we can only implement so much when it comes to bail reform, when it comes to sanctuary city, defunding police. We're not supporting that. So we're going to give the tools to our law enforcement. We're going to continue doing that. But our federal and state policies need to be changed. And we invite the governor down to the streets in Troy any day, any time. I'd love to get the governor to walk the streets and see what's happening in these hot spots.
We walk her through the neighborhoods that are having
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mary Pat, do you anticipate having a grand jury presentation before the preliminary hearing on Friday morning?
I'm not going to comment on that, Ken.
Let me clarify one thing, too, as you talk about asylum seekers, and you claim that these are a different status of people. Guess what? Both ICE and Border Patrol told me today that this guy had asylum status. Tell me how they're different. He had asylum status. Kind of blows a hole in your argument.
What's next? We've got city leaders here, legislature, we've got a county executive, we've got a district attorney, we've got a bunch of representatives here. How are we all going to work together? What's going to happen next?
Yeah,
Where do we go?
Well, we are working together. We do work together, all of us, quite well across the aisle. That's why Mary Pat is here. I work very closely with Jake and Scott and John McDonald. We work very closely across the aisle. That's another misnomer that we don't work together. We do. We're in communication a lot. So we are working together, but at some point our hands are tied. And ultimately, it is a federal issue. It is not as much a state, and certainly shouldn't be a local issue as far as immigration goes. That is a federal policy, and we are being failed miserably by the Biden administration. And if that weren't true, you wouldn't have 6 million illegals in the country in 2 years.
Steve, with you saying that you were told he has asylum status, does that mean he had been accepted, he had applied for it, or he had been granted? Because you also said he had no paperwork.
Yeah, he had no paperwork.
He was wanted by them, so
Both true. Both true.
Yeah, so
He
it
had.
seems like a conflict.
Yeah, it would, right? But he had no paperwork on him, right? Had nothing.
That's what we understand.
Nothing, as we understand it. We checked with Pat. By the time Pat got him, he just had an orange jumpsuit on from Troy. Troy's nothing. They had no paperwork. The personal property bag is empty, so there's nothing there. But yet both ICE and Border Patrol, and again, I'm only going off what Border Patrol said, right? I'm only going off what they said back in March, that he was here illegally. But then, as of today, I don't know if the story's changing or they're catching up, but now it's he was granted asylum status.
So now.
So, hold on. So, that's what they're saying. So they also said that they couldn't, obviously, legally, they can't deport him unless he had been convicted, which is why it was so key that he get sent back to Maryland for trial.
So you don't see this as a state-to-state issue. The fact that the Maryland, county failed to extradite this individual, along with the New York State Police, you don't see it as falling on them. You see this as a federal issue in immigration strictly.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Well,
Seriously,
There's no
are you
fault in New
seriously?
York.
How is there fault in New York? New York State Police did their job as they always
And you
do.
talked to Clinton County and they clarified that
Yes.
it was a failure on county in Maryland.
So let me just be clear. The only one that can extradite is the one that had the warrant. That's Prince George's County. We can't just take anybody and say, oh, there's a warrant, you're going. There's a legal process, correct? They have to go through the extradition hearing. That takes time, which is why you get up to the 90 days. So New York State Police didn't fail. Border Patrol didn't fail. ICE says they weren't even involved. But there was a massive breakdown in communication between agencies. And now we're coming up on from 2001 to 2023, and apparently our federal agencies still can't communicate effectively, not only with each other, but with state and local authorities. So the breakdown here was not the New York State Police or ICE or Border Patrol. The breakdown apparently looks like Maryland.
I have one question, Steve. So I've seen the tweet from the chief from Border Patrol. So being a federal authority, why do you think the Border Patrol didn't take up the responsibility to take him from the state of New York and bring him down to Maryland? They have multi-state jurisdiction. Do you think it was they didn't have the resources?
Probably a better question for Mary Pat. As far as the legality of that goes, I can only tell you what I was told by them, that their hands are tied and they can't extradite without going through the extradition process.
Everything I know in speaking with Clinton County is that the process was followed to a T. He was detained as required under the law. The extensions were put in place. Maryland basically didn't show up. So that's what we know. That said, there are still a lot of questions, and as we discussed before this press conference, there are more questions today than yesterday. And that's why we're here today, really, because this is a communication issue, and that's what we want everyone to know, that we communicate. We are trying to identify what's going on in our county that we can improve to keep our residents safe, and that is the sole purpose of my being here today, is public safety.
Yeah. And I would say if the governor has not rescinded that former statement from Andrew Cuomo, she should do so immediately today and direct her state police to communicate with federal authorities. There's too much on the line here right now to not do that.
Thank you all.
Good? Thank you, everybody.